There is too much green vegetable, she said. Don't you see the pot is full of yams? Ekwefi asked. And you know how leaves become smaller after cooking? Yes, said Ezima. That was why the snake lizard killed his mother. Very true, said Ekwefi. He gave his mother 7 baskets of vegetables to cook, and in the end there were only 3, and so he killed her, said Ezima. That is not the end of the story. Oh ho, said Ezima. I remember now. He brought another 7 baskets and cooked them himself, and there were again only 3, so he killed himself too. Outside the Obi, Achebe and Okonkwo were digging the pit to find where Ezima had buried her Chinua. Neighbors sat around watching. The pit was now so deep that they no longer saw the digger. They only saw the red earth and threw up mountain higher and higher. Okonkwo's son Moye stood near the edge of the pit because he wanted to take in all that happened. Achebe had again taken over the digging from Okonkwo. He worked as usual in silence. The neighbors and Okonkwo's wife were now talking. The children had lost interest and were playing. Suddenly, Achebe sprang to the surface with the agility of a leopard. It is very near now. I have felt it, he said. There was immediate excitement, and those who were sitting jumped to their feet. Call your wife and child, he said to Okonkwo, but Ekwefi and Ezima had heard the noise and ran up to see what it was. Achebe went back into the pit, which was now surrounded by spectators. After a few more holefuls of earth, he struck the Chinua. He raised it carefully with the hoe and threw it on the surface. Some women ran away in fear when it was thrown, but they soon returned, and everyone was gazing at the rock from a reasonable distance. Achebe emerged, and without saying a word or even looking at the spectators, he went to his goatskin bag, took out 2 leaves, and began to chew them. When he had swallowed them, he took up the rag with his left hand and began to untie it. And then the smooth, shiny pebble fell out. He picked it up. Is this yours? He asked Ezima. Yes, she replied. All the women shouted with joy because Ekwefi's troubles were at last ended. All this had happened more than a year ago, and Ezima had not been ill since. And then suddenly, she had begun to shiver in the night. Ekwefi brought her to the fireplace, spread her mat on the floor, and built a fire. But she had got worse and worse. As she knelt by her, feeling with the palm the wet, burning forehead, she prayed 1,000 times. Although her husband's wives were saying that it was nothing more than a bag, she did not hear them. Okonkwo returned from the bush, carrying on his left shoulder a large bundle of grasses and leaves, roots and barks of medicinal trees and shrubs. He went into Ekwefi's hut, put down his load, and sat down. Get me a pot, he said, and leave me the child. Ekwefi went to bring the pot, and Okonkwo selected the best from his bundle and in their due proportions, and cut them up. He put them in the pot, and Ekwefi poured in some water. Is that enough? She asked when she had poured in about half of the water in the bowl. A little more. I said a little. Are you deaf? Okonkwo roared at her. She set the pot on the fire, and Okonkwo took up his machete to return to his hobby. You must wash the pot carefully, he said as he went, and don't allow it to boil over. If it does, its power will be gone. He went away to his hut, and Ekwefi began to tend the medicine pot, almost as if it was itself a sick child. Her eyes went constantly from Ezima to the boiling pot and back to Ezima. Okonkwo returned When he felt the medicine had cooked long enough, he looked it over and said it was done. "Bring me a low stool for Ezima," he said, "and a thick mat." He took down the pot from the fire and placed it in front of the stool. He then roused Ezima and placed her on the stool astride the steaming pot. The thick mat was thrown over both. Ezima struggled to escape from the choking, overpowering steam, but she was held down. She started to cry. When the mat was at last removed, she was drenched in perspiration. Ekwefi mopped her with a piece of cloth, and she lay down on dry mat and was soon asleep. Thank you. We have come to the end of chapter 9. Themes raised in this chapter: the concept of Ubanje, according to the narrative, those children that die young and keep coming back to torment the parents but never leave. We also have that same concept in Cameroon, and they actually do call them Ubanje. But we all know today, and even science has proven it, it's not. Nah. Poor kids, how they are treated. We see how the medicine man tortures Umobiko, even in death, mutilates the body and drags it down the street to the evil forest. Again, it comes back to those beliefs and superstitions. But I thank God today there's enlightenment. As much of what we are that we would love to keep, there's also a lot that we need to shed. And again, like I said in the previous video, we should be always willing to embrace change. Welcome change. Good change. Necessary change. Because that is definitely the pathway to growth. And I dare say, freedom. We also were introduced to the concept of traditional medicine. I have gone through that, the steaming method, with those medicinal herbs, and they cover you with that blanket, and then you take that in, and then you perspire so much that it saps every illness out of your body, and you just surrender to that healing, and you go limp, and you go to a deep sleep, and when you wake up, you're strong. A lot of us I know was doing that during COVID. Thank you for reading with me. I will see you at the next chapter.